It must be all
So,
right?
excuse me, councillors, I've just sent the event live now, so we're live.
Is that going to be a short meeting? 100-page agenda.
Yeah, so just to confirm, then we've started the live event meeting. Councillor Chris Evans, who normally chairs this performance committee meeting for Place and Corporate, has sent his apologies. So could I ask Councillor Al-Uami to take the chair for the rest of the meeting, please?
Yeah, I will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Just trying to find my agenda, and I have now to put my password. Yeah, okay. Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Can we take apologies first?
Councillors Chris Evans and Councillor Matt Whitcutcher.
Okay. Declaration of interest at this stage. None? Okay, then we move to item 3, which is the minutes of the previous meeting held on 22nd March. Can we just take the matters of accuracy first of all? Page 3. Page 4. Page 5. Page 6. Page 7. And there's nothing on page 8. Can someone move the true record?
Yes, Chair, I'll do that.
Okay. Are there any matters arising which are not on the agenda? Okay, in that case, then we move to item 4, which is the service plan for the end of year review. Okay, and that's pages 9 to 88. Okay, who's going to start first?
Well, I think as is customary on these occasions, Chair, if I give a few words as the head of service.
Okay.
And then we'll ask Councillor Truman, who's the cabinet member, to add a few words from his perspective later on, if that's all right. And then following that, we'll open it up for questions then for the committee members.
That's fine, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, as I said in the overview in the outturn report, really the performance last year was quite remarkable given the circumstances. When you consider the challenges faced by the COVID epidemic and the fact that most of law and regulation at some stage was diverted into dealing with the response to COVID. So I suppose if this time last year we might even have considered ripping up this service plan and starting again because everything was so focused on the COVID response. Thankfully, as you will have seen from this outturn report, despite all those unprecedented challenges of COVID, we still managed to sustain the normal level of service, what I might call the business as usual. So despite those challenges, most of the performance from last year was still exceedingly good. And I think that's really testament to the hard work and devotion of the staff in law and regulation. And I'd certainly like to take this opportunity to pay tribute to them for their hard work and dedication over the last 12 months, just for keeping things going, in addition to all the extra tasks that they had to deal with the COVID response. So I think a massive vote of thanks really to all the staff concerned in that respect. I think, Chair, the single biggest achievement for the service area in the last 12 months was in relation to the Test, Trace, Protect service. As I say in the overview in the report, this was set up, if you recall, last May, June, and we only had 2 weeks' notice in which to do it. This was when we came out of the first Welsh Government lockdown, and this was one of the key strands of their route map, if you like, in terms of the relaxation of the restrictions. And we had two weeks in which to set this up. And by the 1st of June, we had 15 council staff who were redeployed from other service areas helping us out. And again, I want to say a major vote of thanks to those volunteers who helped us get that service off the ground in the first couple of weeks. So we managed to get that up and running with temporary IT systems over the first sort of few weeks. And since then, and in the following 6 months, we built that service up from nothing into a service that currently employs over 100 staff and has a budget of about 1.7 million per annum. So if you imagine setting up an entire service area from scratch in the space of 6 months, that's an indication, I think, of the level of achievement. And again, I think that's testament to the work of the managers involved there. The success of the service in Wales was largely due to the environmental health officers and their professional expertise in dealing with infection control. I think it was largely due to their professionalism and dedication that we've managed to run this service so successfully over the last 12 months. And certainly at the peak of those cases, they were dealing with something like 260 new cases a day. So that gives you some indication of the level of work that was being carried out during the last 12 months. So that in itself was a significant achievement in the last 12 months. The second element of that response in terms of containment of the virus was in relation to the COVID enforcement work that was undertaken by the other part of public protection in terms of trading standards, because their officers were then charged with the duty of actually visiting all the licensed premises, the business premises, and all the other business organisations to give them advice in terms of compliance with social distancing, PPE, and all the technical guidance that was being issued. And I think I say in the overview that they dealt with approximately sort of 3,000 inspections and advices during that period, which meant that virtually all the staff engaged in that section were fully engaged and deployed in dealing with the COVID work. So with that in mind, and coming back to what I said originally, it's no wonder that other services suffered because of that. During that period, we took a conscious decision to suspend all non-urgent inspections. So things like food hygiene inspections, housing inspections, and so on, they simply couldn't be undertaken because all of the staff were either devoted to the environmental health work in terms of infection control and dealing with outbreaks, both in community care settings, schools, and so on, or they were dealing with the compliance work. And therefore, because of that, some of the other regulatory work in the service area suffered by comparison. But I think that was inevitable because of the priority that we gave to the COVID response, and the fact that work took precedence. So I think it would be almost inconceivable because of that if we had no areas of underperformance in the last 12 months, which will be apparent from some of the performance indicators and some of the targets in the service plan. But in all of those cases, and I can deal with questions on those later, in all of those cases there's an explanation, and for the most part they can be related back to the COVID response. There's a causal link between the underperformance in those areas and staff being diverted into the COVID response work. So, in terms of how we dealt with the COVID response, I think the response by the staff was commendable in terms of how we controlled that. But despite that, as I say, in terms of business as usual, we still managed to keep our heads above water in terms of keeping those other non-COVID related services going. And a lot of that was due to the fact that staff adapted extremely well to new ways of working and working from home. And also members. I mean, we're only having this meeting today, and we've had all our meetings since last June remotely. And again, that's a credit to the work of the governance team and the scrutiny teams in terms of supporting members to get the democratic decision-making process up and running in the past 12 months. So where we are now compared with where we were 12 months ago, it's almost unrecognizable. And for the most part, technology permitting, we've managed to sustain these meetings during that period. Some other achievements during that year in terms of business as usual. The training standards officers dealt with a number of premises in the city centre dealing with illegal tobacco, and some of you may have seen that featured on the Consumer Affairs programme X-Ray on BBC Wales, when the council got a very good review in terms of its work that was being done there. And the Regional Intelligence Group have dealt with a lot of rogue traders during that period. Coupled with the fact that the Newport Dogs Home has again received an RSPCA award for dealing with stray dogs during the pandemic. So all in all, we've managed to keep the standard services going, as well as the additional work that the demands of COVID placed upon us. Looking forward to next year, I think the challenges are almost unrelenting. I think the COVID legacy will be with us for a while, particularly in terms of the backlog of cases that we will now have to pick up. For example, the food hygiene inspections and the housing cases that we'll need to deal with. A lot of childcare cases were adjourned during the last 12 months. They will have to be picked up. So there will be a backlog in terms of the legacy for the last 12 months. In addition to that, we've got new challenges. We've got the Local Government and Elections Wales Act, and a lot of changes that we'll have to introduce in our governance systems between now and next May, the next local elections. And we still have yet to see the full effects of the Brexit withdrawal agreement, particularly in terms of port health. A lot of our port inspectors have had to be trained to deal with the relaxation of the import and export regulations following the Brexit withdrawal. Now, so far, we haven't seen the increase in work that we anticipated with that, but I think that's to come this year as well. So I think the challenges will be just as great this year as they were last year. But I think if the last 12 months is anything to go by, it's just proven that the staffing law and regulation will step up to the plate and will meet those challenges. So I think both the Cabinet member and I remain confident that performance will be sustained going forward. That's all I wanted to say, Chair. I wonder if Councillor Truman might want to say a few words as well.
Yeah, thank you, Gareth, for a very detailed contribution. I'll bring the Cabinet member first, before we open it to discussion. So, Councillor Truman,
yes,
you want to add to that?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I would, and I concur with everything Gareth has said, but in particularly the way the staff worked during this period and are still doing it now. They certainly went over and above the call of duty, all of them, and it was really a case of all hands on pumps. But as I say, setting it up, particularly the track and trace system, setting it up from scratch, basically, and it was a lot of volunteers who were on furlough. They volunteered to come and go onto this track and trace system at the time, and it was that. And Gareth has also explained the inspections, the training standards, the environmental service workers. They were all, if you like, involved in this. Everyone, they were all out doing inspections, advice to businesses, where needed to be. They were issuing improvement notices and if some closure notices, but not many. But overall, the people in Newport and the businesses worked well. It was just a minority that they had to deal with, but they were out and about working with the police, joint inspections. Really a fantastic piece of work. And as I say, I can't add much to what Gareth has said, but as it comes with a cost, because particularly the environmental officers and the trade standards, they were pulled off their normal, if you like, 9 to 5 work with COVID. COVID was a priority, and so it should be, and it was, and will continue to be. So, but it meant that some of their day work they couldn't do. HMOs, for example, well, there's a lot of HMOs now, and environmental health officers would be looking at those, but they couldn't do as much as they normally would do, and that's meant the backlog, and the same with other inspections. But those things will be dealt with, but the priority has got to be COVID, and all the officers are actually working with COVID. As I say, and other things will be done. Like Gareth said, some of the things the portfolio in general has got to do, but overall, COVID has been the main priority, and many people would say, including me, it's got to be. We're not out of the woods yet, as we know. There is lights, like the big light in the end tunnel. People are getting vaccinated more now, which is great, but you still need to be there. The Welsh Government, as Gareth probably said, I was a bit slightly late getting in, have given us additional funding now to fund the track and trace service until next March, which was good because it was only originally given to us till September, but they've agreed to continue the financial next March, which is good. But as I say, all in all, a very, very busy year. None of us foreseen this, but I've got to be honest, we got marvellous staff in the Civic Centre, not just in my portfolio, other portfolios also had to pull together through this. It really was, I think it's for all of us to say, and members, you know, it was a team effort and we've got to continue this and we will get through it. But as I say, it's not easy.
Okay, thank you, Ray. Yeah, can I echo the remarks made by Gareth and himself that really, you know, our officers, our managers have done the council proud over the last 12 months. I mean, a lot of people say this is unprecedented. It was a very difficult situation, a new situation. But looking over the last 12 months, I think the, you know, the department, the people who really were sort of taking us through that difficult period, I think they done the council proud, and we have to echo those remarks. And while, of course, we still have a job as Scrutiny to do for holding people to account, I think we need to be aware that, you know, they really have done well over the last 12 months. So just wanted to say that now. Before we move on to questions, now I see people commenting here that if you leave and rejoin, then things work, and work by that they mean they can see people. Can I ask Councillor Woodcutt? You made that comment. Are you there?
Yes, I am here.
Can you see us?
Yes, I can. Yeah. I was having a lot of difficulties. I couldn't get on actually for about 25 minutes. I've had a lot of IT difficulties in the last couple of weeks with emails and all sorts of things. If you haven't seen me online, that's the reason why. But the staff have worked wonders again to try and sort of sort it out. It's not their fault.
Yeah.
But yeah, it did seem to work. Log off completely, and rejoin. Shut the app down completely, and then reopen it.
Okay. Anne, are you there?
Yes, Councillor.
Yeah. Is that worth our while doing? Is that okay within the live event?
I would suggest that as long as everybody can hear the members speaking, I would stay on the meeting for the time being.
I agree, Chair. I think it might be problematic if we ended the live event now and try to recommence the broadcast. So unless members have got any insurmountable difficulties as long as people can hear what's going on and they can access the chat box, I would recommend that you persevere and continue.
Okay. We'll stay with that advice.
Can I just say one thing, Chair, which is I didn't mean for everybody to do it. I just meant for any individual who's got an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, just for the record, I've had a problem now for the last, well, certainly today and Thursday and Friday. I've been in contact with SRS, and they said it is a Microsoft problem. But right. I can't see any of you at the moment, but I can hear you, and I got my little box at the bottom, so okay. I'll carry on, you know.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, I can't see who wants to speak next.
Can I speak, Chair?
Yes, certainly.
Chair, first of all, I'd just like to thank Ray Truman, Councillor Ray Truman and Gareth Price for the exemplary work they've done, keeping this city going under the difficult circumstances that we've had. And I think the city and all of us owe a huge debt to them. Thank you so much. Chair, can I ask Gareth that obviously, because we're obviously the priority was given to other works, the works that weren't priority, is it a case of just plowing through it, or do we have a time scale where they will be completed by roughly?
We haven't given a precise deadline because at the moment we're still in COVID recovery. In terms of the inspection work that's not being carried out, we've prioritised the inspections according to risk. So if there was any high risk in terms of both food and housing complaints, we would have responded. So the ones in the backlog are the non-urgent complaints, but at the moment we're unable to give any precise time scale in terms of resolving the backlog, because we're still dealing with the COVID response work. The environmental health officers are still dealing with outbreaks and with clusters, albeit in much reduced numbers, obviously. And as the restrictions are being relaxed now on a phased basis, trading standards are still involved, and licensing officers in dealing with hospitality and events and everything else. So at the moment, we're still in that response phase. We haven't yet sort of moved completely to recovery. Once we get to recovery, we'll have some idea about the backlog, and then we'll be able to put some sort of timescale on it. Ideally, with food hygiene inspections, we would want to complete them within the next 12 months. But whether that's possible at the moment, we just don't know.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you.
Thank you, Gareth. Okay, I've got Councillor Woodcock next. Councillor Woodcock? Okay.
Sorry, I was on mute. I just wanted to echo what I think it was Graham said, that the officers certainly have done a brilliant job, and a lot of this work is sort of below the horizon. It's not visible to the public out there, but it is extremely important, and in many ways fundamental, particularly on things like childcare issues, and especially as Ray said, even more so at the moment. Well, perhaps not more so, but also with COVID. There have also been reports. There was a report last week in the Western Mail about an improvement notice which was served on a public house. I won't sort of draw attention to which one it was, but this is absolutely vital work, and some people may criticize it and say, well, you know, it's restricting premises from trade and so on and so forth, but I think it's absolutely essential, and it's right to make sure that the environment into which people are going, whether it be public houses or restaurants or wherever it is, are fit for purpose in terms of trying to safeguard us from the pandemic, and that enforcement action is taken. So I think the council's absolutely right to do that. And Gareth's mentioned all the things which have been done, which I have to say I think are a significant achievement against an extremely challenging backdrop. So that really is all I wanted to say, Chair. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you. Next, I don't know whether I can't see the next person. Does anyone else wish to speak? No? Okay.
I think Councillor Richards has indicated, Chair.
Sure. Okay, I can't see it on my screen. That's fine, no problem. Councillor Richards.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think it's difficult to ask specific questions because we've been through a crisis situation for over 12 months now, and the way Gareth has explained the department's attitude to that and how they've adapted, I think everyone's got to agree it was exceptional, and that our staff have performed, as has been said, admirably on behalf of the public in this city. And I've not had one complaint in my constituency about any aspect of it. People have needed help, they've sought help, and they've received help. One generalisation I'd make is that let's hope staff will be rewarded for their efforts. I know they've not done it for reward, but we've seen the national government offering 1% to nurses, which is a disgrace. Our staff have stepped up to the plate without any prompting. They've handled the environment, they've handled the situation, and over time we should always remember that. And there's only one proper way to reward loyal, efficient staff, and we all know how that is.
Okay, I mean, is that something within the remit of the council to do, or is it something much wider than that? Can we ask the Gareth or the cabinet member to comment on that?
Well, it is not appropriate for scrutiny committee to take a view, I think, in terms of remuneration for council officers. That's a matter for national pay negotiations. Yeah. But obviously, I mean, Councillor Richards' comments are duly noted, but I wouldn't expect scrutiny committee to make any recommendation or comment generally about pay and reward.
No,
Okay.
could I just come back, Chair? I thank you, Gareth, for that. I didn't. I mean, it is a political statement I've made. I appreciate that, and it's not a detailed scrutiny question. But if I don't see it, then we move on. And I just feel things like that should be recorded at this time, because this time next year, everything hopefully might be back to normal, and people may have forgotten the massive efforts of all our staff in this current economic problem and climate. That's all. Thank you, Chair. Okay,
yeah, I think, you know, we can certainly record our appreciation for the work is done and for all the, you know, if you like, the extra work that is being done really to get through that difficult period. We can certainly record our appreciation if that is what members want. Any comment on that? Are you happy with that? That we record our appreciation?
Yes, Chair. Yeah, I strongly support that. Sorry, I couldn't get back online quickly enough. Yes.
Okay.
Berry's indicating, Chair, as well. Councillor Berry's indicating, Chair, that he wishes to speak.
Okay. Councillor Ferris.
Not me, McDowell. I think they were saying Councillor Berry.
Councillor Berry, sorry, I misheard, yeah.
Councillor Berry, your mic's on mute.
Still on mute.
Okay, Councillor Berry. You are on mute, Councillor Berry.
If you click on the microphone in the toolbar, Councillor Berry.
Still on mute.
Says Jerry can't get in. I think there's a message.
Yeah, I see that. Okay. Yes, Gareth and Councillor Truman, you both gave a very long account of what's been happening. Can I just ask one question, which is whether you have any final comments to give us on the about 3 or 4 measures that are showing red? I mean, you know, the answer may be obvious, but I just wondered whether you might have a few words to say on that.
Yeah, I'm happy to pick that up, Chair.
Yeah.
With the performance indicators, there are 2 indicators that are showing red. One is in relation to local land charges searches, and the other is in terms of the numbers of or percentage of regulatory services complaints that have been resolved. I think the second one is probably more obvious. As I said in the introduction, because of trading standards officers and regulatory officers being redeployed into COVID inspections, yeah. A lot of those complaints simply weren't being dealt with. So I would expect that resolution rate to go down significantly. In fact, to me, it's surprisingly high. It's still in 74% compared with the target of 95%. So I think when you, all things considered, given that inspectors have been redeployed into COVID work in the last 12 months, and everything apart from high risk areas and complaints have had to be put on the back burner and not responded to, then you can see that red indicator is a direct result of resources being redeployed into COVID. So I think that's a clear indication of what we were saying in the introduction, that the prioritization of the COVID work has a direct impact on other inspections and other resolution of complaints. So I think that's an easy one to explain. The land charges one is probably less obvious in terms of its link to COVID, but actually it was linked to COVID nevertheless. These are the local land charges searches that we process in connection with property transactions, and normally we would look to process most of those, about 95%, within 5 working days. Now, as you'll see from this indicator, during the last 12 months, that went down to, well, just below 80%, 78%. Now, the reason for that, and it was COVID related, was the fact that firstly, we had fewer staff in the offices during the various lockdown periods where only key workers could undertake key journeys. We had limited numbers of staff in the office socially distancing, and a lot of these registers are still manual, so we had less staff to deal with the searches. And also because journeys were being restricted and travel was being curtailed, the personal search agents couldn't come in themselves to deal with searches, because in addition to the written searches that we deal with, there are private companies out there that will actually come in and look at all the council's property registers and undertake their own personal searches. Now, because they couldn't do that during the COVID lockdowns, they had to put in full searches as well. So it was something of a double-edged sword, really. We had fewer staff, and at the same time we had more searches coming in. Hence the dip in terms of performance. And again, to get it near to 80%, I think was quite an achievement, really, given those two challenges. The flip side of it, and the good thing that came out of that, was that our income levels were maintained, because we thought during the COVID lockdown that because property transactions wouldn't be going ahead in significant numbers, there would be a significant drop in our land charges income. But thankfully, because of the numbers of searches that were being processed during that period, our income levels were generally sustained during that period. So that was the good thing. But yeah, with those two indicators, as you can see, directly and indirectly, in some cases, they are linked back to the COVID situation.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Gareth. Again, a very good detailed reply to that point. Are there any more points any member wishes to make? No? In that case, can we thank you and Councillor Truman for attending the meeting? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Okay, the next service review is to do with, lost my agenda, but I know it's Cornwall Reese, isn't it? Yeah. Cornwall, are you there? Sorry, Reese Cornwall, sorry.
Hello, Chair. Yeah.
Reese, are you there?
I'm here.
Yeah, so am I.
Okay, and Councillor Mayor, is it?
Yes.
Okay. Can we then ask you to give us an introduction, please?
Okay, I'll leave that to Reese, and you can come back to me with any questions later.
Okay. Okay, so I'll just do a brief overview of the service, of where we got to with the delivery of the service plan. Okay, so to start off with, a financial outturn for the year was a little over £200,000 below the budget, and that was primarily due to undelivered expenditure on some IT provision. So as you can imagine, quite a lot of our focus has been on ensuring that we can operate as an organisation. There's very little other infrastructural work that we did during the course of the pandemic because of difficulties with suppliers and difficulties with getting people on site in order to undertake work. So that underspend was primarily around that. As a general overview of the service, I'd probably echo some of the things that Gareth has said, and what I've written in the executive summary of it is that, you know, by and large, as a service area, the staffing, people and business change been remarkable in the way they've approached delivery of services throughout the pandemic. We've had staff seconded into contact tracing over that period of time. We've had staff seconded into social services in order to support those services. Our document services staff have been operating within the Civic Centre throughout the pandemic, ensuring that we can still maintain those services. Staff within our Newport Intelligence Hub were pretty instrumental in working with Welsh Government and NHS Wales around data on shielding individuals so that they could be provided with the appropriate support. So we did a lot of work, not just for Newport, across Wales on that work. Our health and safety team have obviously been instrumental in lots of work around making sure we had robust risk assessments in place for the services that we've been delivering and how we operate. And our civil contingencies team obviously have been, you know, embedded throughout all of the processes that we've had in place, both within Newport and as a region, for dealing with the pandemic. So the staff in my service, I couldn't be prouder of the staff within the service area. They've been absolutely remarkable all the way through, as they have been across the organisation. Partway through the year, strategic communications came into the service area, so we've been working on embedding them within the work that we do, and obviously communications has been critical throughout the pandemic. We've obviously had some impacts on services, and quite happy to talk through some of those as you require, but from a performance point of view, we've got 4 red measures in place, and 3 of those are to do with staff training. As you can imagine, it's been incredibly difficult to implement, undertake staff training throughout the pandemic. We've now got measures in place to ensure that we pick that up during this financial year with programs starting this summer, primarily online. And the 4th red measure we've got is to do with subject access requests. So for members, those are personal data requests that organisations hold. And given the amount of primarily social services paper records we still maintain, because they've got such a long retention rate on them, that does require people actually coming into the building to scan and redact that information as necessary. So there's been some particular issues in meeting our performance measures on delivering against that. Despite all of that, some really strong performance across the service area, and also, you know, in driving forward some real sort of organisational change. So, you know, we became partners within the Shared Resource Service for IT in 2017. We've invested in our IT provision to ensure that we're an organisation that's fit for meeting the future requirements of businesses. And a lot of that came into fruition right at the beginning of the pandemic, where we were able to operate remotely for quite a lot of our services in a very, very short period of time. So, you know, we've certainly had some benefits of that. And we've been working with Overview and Scrutiny Management Committee on a report on New Normal, which tries to encapsulate some of the benefits that we've achieved over the last year and how we move that forward. So overall, obviously COVID has had a massive impact. I can't underestimate that, and but obviously we're all aware of that. We've achieved things strongly against the service plan during the course of this year. Our performance measures are good. Generally, we've got 4 red measures. They are understandable given the circumstances, I think, and the actions that we've got in place within the service plan. We've had obviously some delays on some of those, primarily around some civil contingencies activity that we plan to undertake during this year, which is now going to roll into the 21-22 financial year. Some measures, some activities around HR as well, but generally, you know, very, very strong performance, I think, across the whole service area.
Yeah, thank you, Rhys. Councillor Mayor, do you wish to add to that?
Nothing to add to that. Just to repeat what my colleagues have said and others have said about how wonderful our staff have been, and especially because we are the glue in the council's operations, and we provided that support all the way through. And the Intelligence Hub especially, and the team in the Intelligence Hub, we're at the centre of communications for the whole of Wales. We would not be in the situation we are in Wales at the moment if it hadn't been for our staff at Newport. So big thanks to those, and if anyone's got any questions, of course we are welcome to ask. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We turn to questions. I haven't got anybody here that I can see who wishes to ask questions. Anybody wishes to ask questions? Okay, in that case, can I please raise a question? Page 41 of the agenda, and it's to do with the Welsh language training and also the quality training. I mean, again, you know, I understand probably the reasons why some of that has fallen short. The one that really surprised me, though, is that the number of staff receiving equality training being 7, which is, you know, a big way down from 75. So can we have some comment on that, please?
Yes, Chair, I'm more than happy to comment on that. Yeah, we had a training program in place for 2021, which was primarily face-to-face delivery for equalities training. Obviously, we weren't able to do that. It's taken us some time to identify the provider in order to do an online training provision. So that is booked now and will take place for all staff. So the leader of the council has determined that we will put that in as training for all members of staff starting in the summer period. So that will change dramatically during this year.
Okay.
And the Welsh language one, we started a new training program about a month before we went into lockdown. So that then was massively impacted by the COVID restrictions.
Okay. I was actually looking at the number of employees trained in Prevent PVE. That struck me as quite a large number. I know it's below the target of 200. So if we were able to do that, how will we be able to do that, considering the relatively large number of people we're talking about there?
We've been able to do more of that because actually, if you can imagine, a lot of that service provision, that training, a lot of that happens with schools.
Okay.
And schools have primarily been operating throughout the pandemic. So there've been some restrictions with that, and obviously we've had to do smaller numbers, but we've been actually been able to do some of that work purely because people have been available.
So the employees would be teachers, etc. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Any more questions on this? Okay, well, in that case, can I also echo the comments by Rhys and Councillor David Mayer, you know, that we are really proud of what our staff have achieved over the 12 months. What I said before about the other service area applies equally to this one. And really, you know, 12 months on, I think we're looking at a really much better situation than what we thought was possible 12 months ago. So, you know, I'd like the committee to share with me our appreciation for all the good work that has been done, and, you know, agree that next year we have quite a lot to catch up with, really.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Okay, if there are no more questions, can I thank Rhys and David for attending the meeting, and we can move on to the next item of the agenda. Thank you, guys. Right. Next item is the work programme.
Thanks very much, Chair. Just to quickly introduce this to the committee, this is the draft forward work programme for this committee for 21 to 22. Just to remind the committee that the forward work programmes are member-led, so they're there for you to develop as the year goes. Just to explain what we currently have in the next 2 weeks, we've got the other service areas end of year reviews. So we'll be having city services, finance and regeneration, investment and housing service areas coming. Then in September we got staff support, which is an update from the people and business change service area on implementation of the support provided to staff throughout the COVID pandemic. We will also have the review of the council whistleblowing policy as well, so that hasn't come to scrutiny before, and also we'll have the recommendations monitoring on the economic growth strategy and the economic recovery plan. Then in November we got 2 lots of meetings again. This time it'll be for the mid-year reviews. Again, it'll be in the same format. 1st of November will be law and regs and people and business change. 2 weeks after will be city services, finance and regeneration, investment and housing. On the 10th of January, it will be the draft budget proposals. And then in end of February, we'll have the carbon management plan, the progress monitoring. Again, this is the first time this has come to scrutiny committee as well. At page 99 of the agenda will be the meeting dates which are currently been proposed, also with the dates that the agendas will be sent out. Obviously, if there's anything further the committee would like to add to its forward work programme, if there's anything that they would like to discuss further coming out of these mid-year and end of year reviews, you know, we can see if we can add it onto your forward work programme.
Okay, any comments on that, colleagues?
Chair, just a general question. Do we have a meeting on the 21st of this month?
Yeah, that's
yes, we do, Councillor Ferris. That's at 4 o'clock. That will be the other part of the service areas end of year reviews.
Okay. I'm afraid I won't be here on the 21st of June. We're going away for a few days, so I'd have to give my apologies.
No problem, Councillor. Your apologies have been noted for that.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Councillor Woodcock.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just to flag up that that I've got a problem because I'm on a professional course between the 18th of June and the 16th of July. So it's highly unlikely that I'll be able to attend the next meeting. So perhaps I could just put my apologies on record now, if that's okay.
No problem, Councillor Whitcutt. Thanks for that. Your apologies have also been noted too.
Yeah, can you remind us though, Neil, please, what's the quorum for the committee?
It's 3 members.
3 members, including the chair, yeah?
That's right, yes.
Okay. Right. Okay, thanks for that. Any further comments, colleagues? Okay. If there are no further comments, we accept the work program as outlined by Neil. Yeah. Okay, I think I've taken all the speakers out. Yeah, no more is showing on my screen. Okay. Okay then, Neil, what's next for us now to do?
That's it, Chair. So if you'd like to close the meeting, we can end the live recording.
In terms of sort of recommendations or comments, you've taken all those, yeah?
Yes, sorry. Is there for the service area end of year reviews, was there any comments or recommendations that the committee would like us to send the cabinet member ahead to service?
I think it's fine, Chair. You know, I thought I think it's been dealt with.
Okay. Yeah,
absolutely.
Absolutely. We all commented, and I think it was mostly deep appreciation for what has been achieved in the 2 areas that we have reviewed this afternoon. And we're happy to associate ourselves with those, I think. Yeah. Okay, colleagues, if that's all it is, thank you for attending. Thank you for persevering despite the technical problems. I think the meeting went okay. I thought it was going to be very difficult, but the sound was working really well. So I think we had a useful meeting. And we meet on the 21st. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, for the way you did the meeting.